This episode of A Quiet Night Inside Number 9 is brought to you by Fiona Dickinson. Stephen!
Andrew!
Do you fancy spending a quiet night inside Number 9?
Yeah, let's!
Right, it's Series 9, Episode 1, Boo to a Goose, directed by George Kane, produced by Paul Ryde, written by Rhys Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton, and it first aired on Wednesday the 8th of May, 2024.
There were some new names in there.
Paul Ryde, producer. Yeah, good first outing.
Yeah. This was different, wasn't it?
It was. Synopsis? Have you planned a synopsis for this one?
No, I haven't. Have you planned a synopsis?
Not really. I'll just scribble down a couple of sentences. A bunch of late-night passengers on the Underground get stuck when all power is lost. They await the replacement service, but an inciting incident causes some unrest in the ranks.
You'd scribbled down a couple of lines and then you reel off that little piece of perfection.
Oh, cheers, Matt.
I like that. That was good.
Yeah, and what about the episode? This is our reaction to Boo to a Goose. First thoughts before we kind of dive into it a bit more deeply?
Strong start to the finish. Really strong start. It was unexpected. It was more sci-fi than usual. We haven't had a lot of all-out sci-fi, have we?
No.
And this felt, and the sort of the dystopian overtones, what's the difference? Were very much there.
Yeah. I think they went from being undertones to being overtones.
Yes.
Through the episode, yeah. Yeah, I really, really liked it. Yeah, I thought it was full of interesting ideas and stuff that really benefits from a second and a third watch. Like, totally thrown by the end. First time round, I was like, what's just happened? But it makes complete sense. Actually, there's so much stuff being threaded through the episode. So, yeah, I was reading I think it was the Guardian's review, and they kind of there was a criticism of the fact that it was like just a twist that didn't have it wasn't seeded properly or anything like that. It was like, I think you need to go and watch it again.
I really think you do.
You've totally missed it. Yeah.
I thought the biggest example of that was Gerald. Gerald's character throughout the whole thing, there's kind of allusions being made to he's not what he used to be, and he used to be such an agitator, and he used to be a firebrand. Edith calls
exactly.
And what changed, and turns out we find out exactly what changed. He was replaced with, a replacement service came along for him at some point, is what I'm reading into that. I think it's interesting. I think I can imagine the two of them sat on the tube looking at people, not wanting to make eye contact with each other and not wanting to get involved with any nonsense that's going on, and thinking there's something in this. But even bigger picture, sort of societal, people turning away and turning a blind eye to injustice and bad things happening because they don't want to get involved. Yeah. I'm all right, mate. Don't give me any trouble. I want none of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, definite social commentary, and I thought really cleverly not coming down in a particular position. I think it's a broad brush look at humanity in those situations, and I think that sort of using the dystopian sci-fi backdrop is a good way to be able to do that. I mean, there's politics in it, but you're not falling on a particular side of any political divide.
No,
I don't think.
There's a bit of a sense of you could have almost lost the ending, and on its own, it could have been a commentary on people choosing to get involved or not get involved in things they see unfolding. I mean, it wouldn't have been a particularly interesting piece of television if it had stopped there, I don't think. But that almost is a little performance piece on its own. Getting to the point where you are literally taking a vote on who thinks we should ransack someone's bag
Yeah.
to see if they've got a bomb in there or not. But then to add in that bit at the end of either you're not the sort of person who gets involved, or if you are, we'll replace you with someone who is a person who's not going to get involved. Just adds the extra bit to it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, themes of like interesting themes like power, suppression of stuff, like repression, pushing things down. Like the fact that it's set on the underground, I think is really, really interesting from that perspective. It's like that is a big theme. And then the idea of like hiding behind masks. Everybody has a different sort of mask that they're hiding behind. And then, do they allow that to be the thing that doesn't get them replaced? Or is it the thing that will get them replaced? I imagine we'll have a few new listeners. There's always like a little surge every time there's a new series of Inside Number 9. So, basically what these episodes are and what this show is, like the reason we started doing it in the first place was because there wasn't a podcast about Inside Number 9, and I really wanted to listen to a podcast about Inside Number 9. So I thought, okay, let's just make one and see if anybody else hears it and thinks, I can do better than that.
Ironically, can't listen to this one.
Can't listen to this one. But, just talking about it is enough of a substitution for that. The aim is, like, we're sat in a pub, round a table with friends, nothing too professional. So, we'll just sort of wander through the episode and pick up on anything that stood out and that kind of thing. So we hear in the sort of setup bit, you get the announcement about CCTV being in operation in the station for the purposes of safety and security, which is setting up that whole the thing you often hear around kind of controlling powerful totalitarian regimes is this is for your own safety, this is for your own security. We're watching you.
I'd be interested to know, I guess people are probably picked in advance. And do you take a group of people that you think might, over the course of that journey, have they identified, were these people identified at the beginning of this journey while they're on the train? Have they been sort of pre-picked before? I guess, how did they end up with these people in the same carriage as each other?
Mm-hmm. This is one of my questions. Yeah.
How quickly can you turn around a group of replacement people?
Well, I was wondering, is it that you have, like, everybody has had a kind of replacement made for them, and so it's sort of waiting somewhere, and then maybe it took a long time for the replacement service to come because they were like, okay, I can imagine, someone at the back of Argos trying to find the right box with the right replacement. It's like, it's right at the back. So that's why it took so long. And was anyone a potential surprise?
I did wonder if the homeless guy was. Curtin, as I will be calling him throughout this episode, because that's who he is. I wondered if he was added in unexpected. There were a couple of times that it was when Ray had his hands round
Finn.
Yes. It was when he was strangling him that Curtin came back in. And he said, need to stop. And they kind of looked at him and then let go.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he was an unexpected.
Yeah.
But then he became the whole point. He became a focal point for the kind of agitation to revolve around. Which is strange because it's almost like he was used as a prop, yet he was also replaced. Mm-hmm. He found himself in the middle of the whole thing because it was
and
kind
it sounds
of
like from a sort of a nuisance perspective, they might have had an eye on replacing him if he's just wandering up and down the train all day asking people for money. And whether that at the end, where he just sort of slides down the wall, is that it then for him? Is he just going to be sat there with his cup, not walking around anymore? Yeah.
It's interesting to think about where they, I mean, it's probably the thing to think about right at the end, but what they then walk off into, those new versions of those characters, what does that now look like? Yeah.
Passive,
weird
nothingness. There's then the announcement setting up as they've got on the train. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed the next station is closed. The train will not be stopping at the next station. No announcement of what that station is, which would be quite inconvenient if that actually happened. Which then Finn responds to, do you know where the next station is going to be? To which Raymond says no, which is kind of strange. I was really struck by the fact he's just like, no. Why does he not know what the next train?
I'm not getting involved. I don't want any part.
And it's that it like straight into, I'm not even listening to what you're asking because everything's just no, shut it down. And I was wondering, was that a test from Finn to see, are you going to sort of engage,
or are you going to properly London Tube this?
Yeah,
which is that kind of attitude of
yeah, exactly.
Don't look at me, don't talk to me.
What was that? I missed it.
We're not stopping at the next station.
Thank you so much.
Do you mind?
Sorry, just looking at the map. Do you know what the next station's going to be?
No.
Again, coming back to what you were just asking about, like, do they know who's going to be replaced, and is Finn sort of scouting that out? Because obviously they've got CCTV in the train itself. I imagine it's listening as well.
Is it a case of you're on that train looking for an opportunity where you think you're going to get a small group of people where something could kind of develop, where you get to just, it's a kind of a game really, isn't it? Finn's kind of orchestrating a little game with these people in the carriage with quite brutal consequence at the end of it. It's almost a bit sore.
I was thinking that
creating a situation and kind of messing with people and creating that antagonism, stealing the purse, seeing who goes for who. It's pretty manipulative and
there are opportunities
brutal
for them not to be replaced. Like, I think if they don't side with him at the end, they don't get replaced. There is a test aspect to it that kind of adds to the horror element.
It's horrible. He is messing with them.
Yeah.
The music right at the beginning. This is Henson synth special.
Unlike any other of the soundtracks, I was kind of going through different episodes thinking, is this reminiscent of...
We haven't had a lot of synth work at all. I mean, there was some electronic stuff back in the Quiet Night In.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah, he hasn't done a lot of synth stuff, has he? No. And I guess that's what kind of led to this kind of sci-fi feeling running through a lot of it, I guess. It was just like a bit, even though the situation they were in for most of the episode wasn't really shouting sci-fi, the like 80s synths, Stranger Things, reminiscent kind of feel to it.
Yeah,
very much did give you the kind of the supernatural feeling over the top of it.
Yeah. So we meet Jerry and Edith.
Oh, Jerry and Edith, yes.
They've just been to see Kinky Boots, and even here you get a sense of Jerry because he can't remember things, can't remember details. He's like talking about the woman with the teeth. So you have to be more specific. Thinking that Leslie Manville was in this version of this amateur production of Kinky Boots. And like then he says that people have to work, Edith. And that was quite an interesting line in itself, because it, in retrospect, alludes to this kind of just getting on with. You've just got to survive. You've just got to do what you need to do to get on with things. Yeah, he's just sort of. There's no soul there, is there? This is one of my. I think he's one of my favourite Reese characters in terms of his boring middle-aged guy ones that he plays sometimes with just phrases like the Le Creuset, those kind of things. I love it when Reese plays that character. Yeah. It's so good. I love the idea of him getting, that's the pan that I'm going to take out to the heaviest piece of cast iron he could possibly drag out there to try and swing around. Leave the teeth out. Yeah. These nurses deserve the very best French cast iron. And chalk and cheese with Steve's character, Wilma. Special. Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing that we see of her is a boob. Just out. Popping out. And I think Wilma's a really interesting character, and you talked about pushing things down, so to speak. Or back in. Tucking it up. Around. There you go. There's another one. I think right from the off, Raymond's character is seemingly just disgusted by Wilma and kind of the outrageousness and the innuendo and all of those things. Really doesn't fit comfortably with him. He's very stiff upper lip. None of that, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Yet they end up having far more in common. And if you were going to expect someone in that carriage to be an agitator and a disruptor to the status quo, you would probably have picked the Wilma character. Yeah. When in reality, the hand goes up the other way. Yeah, exactly. I think they are. It's very similar in terms of that concealment, that masking of things. Obviously, Mark Bonner's character. So many names to Raymond. Yeah, Raymond. He's obviously very repressed. You know, he's that sort of. He reminded me a lot of Sergeant Howie in The Wicker Man. In terms of him taking control, and I think it was really emphasised at the end when you realise he didn't have any control, and he was just being used. When he was like, "What's going on?" Like, and there's just a vulnerability in him asking, like, as Finn kind of reaches out his hand to shake it. It's like, "Oh, you've just been totally used." And ironically, it's you that's caused the rebellion. Yes. And I think there's something really interesting about that dynamic, that actually it's the person, the inciter of the rebellion is the person who is supposedly against the rebellion. And that's weird, isn't it? Because none of that situation happens without him. No. Really, at all. But is that Finn seizing an opportunity? I think he probably, if he's done this multiple times, he knows these different archetypes of human beings, and he can sort of, I suppose, play them like a musician. He's like playing them to do what he needs them to do. Because Raymond is coming out with the things that I guess they want from this game that they're playing, is when he's talking about, I've seen the breakdown in respect in society. I've seen people basically doing whatever the hell they want. And it's disgusting to me. And that's what all of this is really about, is trying to sort of stem that tide of what they see as, people just completely acting in self-interest and doing what they want
causing just the fabric of society to collapse.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. There is a rebellion, and it's him. And he sees. I guess you do see this. I think societally, you see this where everyone sees themselves as a disruptor of something. You've got people on one side of things. Well, I guess everyone thinks that someone else is in control, don't they? And so everyone thinks that they're in the oppressed camp, and they've got something to push back against.
Yeah, and actually, it's not about because just going back to like him saying no when do you know where the next station is? That as a way of reacting to another human is really antagonistic or really dismissed. Like that's not going to create a world of respect as he is. No,
you're taking a pretty firm position there. That's your natural reaction is, yeah, here. Like that doesn't take any effort. Whereas to actually vindictively say no, that's not
contributing to amplifying the lack of respect that you wish was there. Yeah, and I think that you see that quite a lot. I think you see people behaving in ways that actually bring about more of the thing that they think is what's missing and the problem with the world. It's like just have a look in the mirror. Just take a moment.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah. And I think Cleo, so we meet Cleo is with Wilma, and they're like kind of giggling and being quite rude together. And I think Cleo like sniggers along, kind of playing a bit of the Richard the Hamster Hammond role. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Richard the Hamster Hammond.
And like laughing. And then when you get that line at the end when she says, "When did you become so mean?" It's like he's been as mean as that all the way through the episode. Like we haven't seen
now it's aimed at you.
Yeah. And you've seen something that, oh no, actually I'm not happy with that. And I think you see the shift in that speech. Actually,
we'll make a statement, won't we, Jerry?
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry, but I'm not saying shit to the police. I won't trust them as far as I could throw them.
Hardly surprising, is it?
Why'd you say that?
Oh, no reason.
No, go on. If you've got something to say, I think you should say it.
I've been a teacher for 25 years. I've seen the erosion of respect for authority. There was a time when I would walk into a classroom and 30 students would stand up immediately.
Oh, is that what you want? Good morning, sir.
This lady is a nurse. It wasn't so long ago we were standing in the street applauding their efforts. Maybe you never bothered.
No, maybe I never did. Do you have a list of everyone who banged a pan?
Oh, the government do. They see everything.
Curtin.
Mossy. Let's call him Mossy.
Mossy, yeah. And just quite sweet. And I just love Charlie Cooper. He's a great guy, I think.
He is. I worry that he needs to stop sort of picking up these sort of heart of gold, simple people kind of roles, because he will end up typecast.
Yeah.
And by simple, I don't mean of mind. I mean just basic, just
good.
Not a lot to him.
Yeah. And so this is like one of those I think we've probably all been in a situation like this when somebody enters the space that's like, oh dear, and kind of asking for something, and all the people's heads go down like, no, I don't have any, sorry. It's perfect time to talk about our story from a few weeks ago when we were walking to the pub.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Completely forgotten about that.
It felt a little bit more aggressive, but...
there was certainly more aggression underlying in that one.
Yeah. So as we were en route to a tap bar to go tap dancing, as we normally do, on a Friday evening.
Tap house.
Tap house. There was a gentleman who asked us whether we had any spare change because he needed to pay for a funeral for his dead gerbil. I think it was a burial. Was it?
I think so. I think it was a burial. I think it was it gerbil or a hamster?
I think it was a gerbil.
I think it was a gerbil. I think gerbil is quite Garibaldi, isn't it?
It's very Garibaldi.
Not just his pet, his gerbil. I admired the chutzpah of this gentleman.
Yeah,
didn't really know how to respond.
If I had some change, I would have given him a couple of pounds to.
He needed a card reader, didn't he? Really?
What? No. What do you want to do that for, bro? You can track here for use cards.
Who can?
Damn minute, they're watching us right now.
Finn pops up for the first time. Paranoid, conspiracy theorist. They're watching. They can track everything you do if you use cards. Don't do it.
I mean, they can, but my spending is fairly banal, really.
Yeah, they can and they do.
They do.
Yeah, and so is this the character that he's laying down?
Is he just going for extreme agitator, just to see you'll go along with him? As far as you can go, really, just full on the conspiracy theories.
I mean, he doesn't sort of spurt anything too extreme. They're kind of just quite generic,
true.
like, they're tracking us.
There's a Facebook group for all of these things.
Exactly. A Facebook group, perfectly ironically. They're watching everything you write on that Facebook group.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just serving it up for the man.
And then Alina gives Mossy £2 in cash. Gets a suspicious look from Finn at that point. I noticed on the second viewing.
Why?
I didn't know if that look meant anything, or whether it was like, oh, is he surprised? Is he like,
Is that might that put her on the bad side? I'll say the bad side, the need for replacement side.
Maybe, exactly.
If she's too up for helping out.
Yeah.
People, troubling people with their little cup.
Yeah, showing some kind of sympathy or empathy in that moment. It's like, oh, that's dangerous.
And then the power goes out.
It almost feels like there's a trigger phrase here for the power going out. Because Edie says every little helps. Jerry's like, he won't know Tesco's. Why won't he know Tesco's? And she's like, I was just saying it as a phrase. And then he says, just don't get involved. And then
boom,
that's the power goes. Yeah.
Don't get involved. So I think the Gerald character, it seems at the end that he's in on this, but he's also seeming desperate for Edith not to get involved in anything. Like he tries to hold her back from stuff. It's almost like he knows what's going to happen if she does get involved. But then, has he had a part in putting her in that situation in the first place?
That's the question. I can't figure out how much of it is
set up.
Yeah, especially as it's like an underground, it's the rolling on the loop, because it's the Wirral line on the up Merseyside.
Yes.
So it's just, you don't get a ticket for a particular train, like anything like that. So it's very difficult to actually set that up.
Unless they get on, they've genuinely just been out to the theatre. They get on a train to go home. He sees things start to happen and thinks, hang on a minute. I've been in this situation before and I know what's happened to me. If he's even aware of it, I don't know if he's aware of it by the end.
And he knows Harold.
He knows Harold. Yes. So, yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is this a setup, or does he just recognise the situation that they might find themselves in if she's not careful?
Yeah, I reckon it's when he asks about salad days and she doesn't want to go and see salad days, he's like, "Well, screw it, take her, replace her." Especially
replace her with a version that does want to go see salad days.
The first question he asked, "Do you want to go see salad days?"
Gotta.
Salad days. Never seen salad days.
No.
The name does not appeal to me at all.
No.
Yeah.
Salad days. So yeah, power goes out, and we're treated to a spooky story from Matthew Kelly.
Yes.
Full on torch in the face.
Torch in the face. Talking about passengers stuck in a tunnel on the Berlin U-Bahn. What was it? Power failed. They were trapped inside. The authorities couldn't get to them. So much double entendre in this.
Mm-hmm.
They turned on each other in the end. The weakest got eaten. So it's kind of like, okay, the authorities couldn't get to them in the sense of get them to change, maybe.
Yeah. I find his character really interesting, strange, confusing. I don't know what role he plays in the whole thing. Because anyone who doesn't need a mask, but I assume, are they immune because they are replacements?
Once they're replaced, I would imagine they don't need. Yeah.
So is he a replacement?
Matthew.
Yes.
Harold.
Yeah. So is he a replacement? He's got strange story. Is he a replacement that went a bit wrong?
Well, I think he was an early one, I reckon, because even the line about being experimented on at a bus stop in Preston.
Yes. Yes. Stuck an R2D2
with an R2D2. So it's like maybe there's some early versions of what what they've now perfected a little bit more.
He's like a prototype.
Yeah. Interesting.
He's not plugged in.
The Berlin, yeah, exactly. He's not. There's some fascinating aspects to him as well. Like, yeah, I'll talk about that in a sec. So the Berlin U-Bahn. I was doing a bit of research about the types of trains that are used on that.
You picked a funny thing to go in on here for your research.
Well, I was just intrigued because I was like,
U-Bahn.
I think I started by like, is this a true story? Were there people, trapped on the U-Bahn? On the 28th of January 2020, Swiss rolling stock manufacturer Stadler provided the first of a new fleet of 53 new train sets, designated Class 777, built at Stadler's factory in Bussnang, Switzerland. The final units were due to enter service in 2021. The trains are based on the metro platform Stadler's product family for underground trains, also used on the Berlin U-Bahn and the Minsk Metro. The new trains are a custom-built, bespoke design specifically for the Merseyrail network, with driver-only and guard capability. So they use the same trains on the Merseyrail line as the Berlin U. So something about the power, what they run on, they enable these replacement service evenings to take place, clearly. So, yeah, there's a conspiracy about those.
I like that.
About those trains.
I mean, I don't know if even Reese and Steve knew that one, but I'll take it. Yeah, so while the lights are out, the purse is stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
And that starts to cause a bit of a ruckus.
Yeah, we get there's a bit of back and forth between Wilma and Harold saying she wouldn't eat Harold's gamey old meat.
Oh, yeah.
Like eating a pigeon.
Yeah, and Ray's face throughout all of this, he is disgusted by all of it. Yeah.
And again, Cleo is there just laughing along at Wilma.
She thinks it's hilarious because it's not at her.
Yeah.
And then Gerald's like vicarious sexual fantasy playing out by deciding that she's been sexually assaulted by someone. Grabbed her breast. No, that didn't happen. Oh, she's confused.
Yeah. There's a sex pest in the carriage. Operates in the dark. Actually, the main thing is the purse is missing. Oh, a sex pest and a thief. Not a sex pest.
And then deciding that this is just like when Sting's bank account got emptied.
Yeah.
The £2, that's how they get you, isn't it?
That's how it starts.
That's how it starts. Remember Sting gave his account details over. They rinsed him. And
Raymond steps into the role of law enforcement on the train at this point.
Yeah, he does carry himself like a detective, doesn't he? He does have that sort of vibe.
He's got I really like Mark Bonner, because it's not dissimilar to the vibe you get in Psychoville. And yeah, there's something still moderately likable about him. Even
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just like him. Yeah.
And then Harold offers up his bag so that everyone can see he hasn't got the well, I don't know what else is in those bags apart from the R2D2, but people do not look impressed by what he's showing them.
There are a few bags as well.
There are a few bags of something.
Yeah. And I think this is, again, a really interesting moment with Harold, because he's like the opposite of all these other people concealing things, and
he's just all out himself, like, isn't he? I say what I like, I sing what I like. This is me,
and I'll just pipe up with stuff, like no filters really. And then if you want to look in my bag, here you go. And then the responses to that is like, no, I don't want to look in your bag. And there's something, when you think about like humanity in that sense, it's like you really want to look in someone's bag until they freely let you look in their bag, and then you don't want to look in their bag.
No.
If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to hide. He does have something to hide.
He has got something to hide. Finn points out that Harold's headphones aren't plugged into anything. He's trying here, isn't he? Like, look at this weirdo. He's not even plugged into anything. He's saying all this stuff. He's not even listening to stuff. Maybe he's listening to you. He's stirring things up. But why is Harold sat there with his headphones in, not plugged into anything?
Yeah. He's so fascinating, because he's almost like, because he's so astute at different moments where it's like he almost commentates on what's going on, and he can see what's going. He's always this all-seeing eye. Actually, he's like the big brother, but in a completely like non-powerful, the opposite of whatever's going on, with the authorities. Yeah, it's like actually he knows it all. He's seen it all. He's listening. He's not plugged in, but he can. Yeah, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jerry's happy to comply and show.
Yeah, offers up himself and Edith. We'll show you. Won't we, Edith?
Yeah, neither of them have anything to hide really, apart from a couple of apple cores.
Such a good character.
You see, that's what honest, decent citizens do. Now, are you going to let me check your pockets? Thank you. Wasn't so hard, was it?
Speak for yourself, darling. I found it quite erotic.
Don't be so childish.
Well, I bet you've never tried to keep a tuck with a semi-on.
Shall I speak to the driver? Tell him there's been an incident.
Good idea. Proper authorities.
Mossy eventually lets Raymond pat him down, and he seems quite upset by that whole thing. Almost sort of traumatized. Something's coming back there.
It's
quite tough.
The way that scene is. It's a surrender. Like there's again, like in the context of the power dynamic thing, it's like there's been some resistance to it, and then it's like, okay,
you know what?
I give up. Yeah, and the way that it's shot and framed and everything, and the panning round on other people's faces, because you see people sort of look down and like, oh, the shame of it and all of that. It's kind of like it's gone here. He's lost something here.
Yeah, not nice.
No, And then he goes to speak to the driver after that, doesn't he?
But also, I think Raymond at that point I think he feels like he might have pushed that a little too far as well, though, because he's a bit like, see, nothing. Yeah, I think he feels a little bit bad for how far he pushed that, especially when there was nothing there. Part of him is like, no, it's right that this is done. If he's got nothing to hide, then what's the problem? Because I think there's a lot of that kind of attitude about surveillance of, if you've got nothing to hide, then what's the problem? Which kind of misunderstands the point of having an issue with it.
Yeah.
But I think that he himself kind of didn't like the way that played out. It didn't seem to sit right with him.
And I think that was compounded by Wilma.
Yeah.
Sort of getting turned on, I think, by the whole thing. And when he says, that wasn't so hard, was it? Speak for yourself, darling. I found it quite erotic. And something about keeping a tuck with a semi on is quite difficult. Yeah. Jeez.
And then Harold pops up with the stuff about the aliens. And then we find out what was in the bag, which was the R2D2 that had been up his bum. Where's that come from? Where has that come from? Let's say they put an R2D2 up his bum. That's what we're going to say happened there. Really, Reese? Yep, that's it. Very specific. Yeah. Not just any astromech droid. R2D2.
At least it's coming back out.
Yes.
Like
C-3PO.
What's the one in the newer ones? The orange thing.
BB-8. The ball.
BB-8. Yeah, I think that's less likely to. I don't know. Maybe one Friday night we could experiment.
I did not expect this to go this way. Oh
dear. Yeah. And then Cleo challenges she challenges Raymond to show his pockets.
And he does happily.
Which I was like, I mean, if he does have something to hide, he's just going to empty every pocket except for the one with something to hide.
Yes, he didn't go for his inside suit pockets.
No.
That's where I'd hide a purse. Well, it might be quite obvious, I don't know. But then we get kind of his kind of exposition, don't we? And him talking about his character and the fact he's a physics teacher and he's seen the breakdown of society and he's not willing to stand by.
And there's a weird, because he says, and I think it's when he's emptying his pockets, of course, no one is above the law. You can't just do what you want without consequences. Mossy hasn't done what he wants.
No, in fact, the only person that's done what he wants and expects no consequences is him.
Yeah.
Going around the carriage, blaming people, forcing people to turn their pockets. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, no, obviously the purse has gone missing.
Yeah.
But it's as if
the consequences of that are playing out on everyone else except the person that stole it right now.
Precisely. Yeah. And then you get Jerry and Edie talking about their hydrangeas when they snip the neighbour's hydrangeas back. There's like an interesting, because I think Jerry says it was an act of madness and now we live with the encroachment, shafts of it poking through the tarmac like Hydra's teeth. The act of madness. What was the act of was that the bamboo or was that them doing the bad thing? I think he's talking about Edith in that moment.
Yes, I think he is, yeah.
She performed an act of madness in
maybe he has already decided that she needs replacing.
Yeah.
She's off the chain. She's lost control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hydrangeas everywhere.
Yeah, and then Finn goes because he's like, no, I don't trust Raymond. Is it? Yeah, Raymond's been doing the puzzle, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been writing things down. He's just doing puzzles.
Task Force. Which is I quite like that as an image, doing a puzzle where because he says you've got to make words from the letters they give you, And so he's piecing together something. There's no creative process for him. He's piecing together exactly what he's being almost fed. And so he's coming to the conclusions he's supposed to come to, rather than actually really using any critical thinking.
Yeah, you've got
there's no critical thinking.
I guess with those sort of games, you've got a set number of possible words it could be, and you might think you're being creative by coming up with those words, but you're not.
Who are you working for?
Heightened grammar, I'm a physics teacher.
No. I don't trust him. He's been spying on us the whole time.
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah. He's been writing stuff down about us in code.
That's a polygon.
Yeah, look, actor. Fake. Task force.
It's a puzzle. You have to make words from the letters they give you.
Oh, I'm good at those. Let me see.
You're collating. I see you collating.
Collating what?
Data, for them. There's a bigger picture, yeah? Yeah, we're all being monitored. You must know that.
Yes, it's aliens. I've seen them too. They experimented on me at a bus stop in Preston. They put an R2-D2 in my bottom.
And then Harold treats us to some of the Mikado with some sinister undertones about victims being found. Society's offenders may well be underground.
Yeah.
He knows everything, doesn't he? He just likes to talk in riddles.
He does.
Gerald delivers his democracy manifest line.
Yeah, that really made me laugh. I
nearly messaged you when it first happened.
Yeah.
Democracy manifest.
Chinese meal. Oh, yes.
They've been out for a succulent Chinese meal. It's weird that was only a couple of episodes that we were talking about that one, and they flicked through the scripts. And I wouldn't have ever thought that before we read that one, that is a video that was even on their radar, let alone feeding into their writing process. But here it is again a few weeks later.
So we can include it in the show notes once again.
Yes, any excuse.
Yeah.
If you watched Philomena Kunk, the Britain one, I think it's the Britain one.
Yeah.
Or one of the series where they've got a thing that they drop in to every episode, and on one of them it's like that 70s drama. I've forgotten what it was called, but then the other one was Pump Up the Jam.
Pump Up the Jam, yeah.
This Democracy Manifest feels like we could just tie it back in every single episode.
Yeah. Yeah, you like the hair.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the fact that Gerald likes to drop in theatre references and talk about theatre stuff, but on a very superficial level. He acts as though he knows the Mikado. He knows what Harold's just been singing. He's aware of this. There's the line at one point where he talks. Someone says something, or he says something. Shakespeare. The lady. Is it the lady doth protest too much? Shakespeare. He's yeah. We're kind of introduced to them all around this point as well, aren't we?
We get their names.
Yeah, because it suddenly struck me partway through this, I don't know who anyone's called, which is why I've got the name Curtin written down repeatedly.
Harold. My name's Harold.
Oh, hello, Harold. I'm Edith, and this is my husband, Jerry.
Hello. Binks, Raymond Binks.
I'm Alina. It's very nice to meet you all.
Well, my boy name is Jonathan. Ugh, gives me the ick. But my drag name is Wilma Dickshow.
Wilma?
Dickshow.
Right.
I do a bottomless brunch first Thursday of every month at the Purple Sock. I know, I'll put you all on the guest list. Jerry and Edith, Elena. What was your name again?
I'm not giving you my name, all right?
Oh, damn it. I thought I was going to Columbo him then.
There's this whole weird, given that they've been together for 15 minutes or whatever. Oh, hello, Harold. I'm Edith. This is my husband, Jerry. Oh, hello. It's like this beautiful British moment of, like, we've just been, chatting and getting to know things about one another. But then,
actually, no one
because we don't know each other's names. It's like, oh, right, we need to start again. And it's as if they've just met. Yeah. There's something about names. So
Cleopatra coming at you.
Exactly. So we've got Harold, army ruler, leader of an army, heroic leader.
Okay.
Mossy, apparently the unusual first name means saviour and descendant of Moses.
Okay.
Another leader.
Did Moses spend a lot of time walking up and down tube carriages with a paper cup?
I don't know if you have to
whilst
do
leading
the same thing as people with the same
whilst
name.
leading the slaves from Egypt.
Yeah. Gerald, rule of the spear. Edith, wealth or prosperity. Wilma, resolute protector. Jonathan, gift of God. Finn, fair. Interesting.
Okay.
So kind of like maybe a justice sort of angle.
He sees himself like that.
Yeah. Raymond, counsel protection, protecting hands or hand of advice.
Okay.
And Alina, ray of light. So that's slightly different. A shining light.
Which she is a bit in the whole thing, isn't she? She is probably the purest person there.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't really seem to have anything going on that's a bit off. She really is just, I'll hand over my couple of quid because that's a nice thing to do. And there's that nice little scene between her and Mossy when they're talking about his kind of view of people. He just wants people to be kind and understand what he's kind of going through. They think that he's just sort of trying to pull one over on them and just have their money off them, and that he isn't really homeless, which is such a strange attitude to have. Because if you aren't genuinely homeless, the idea that collecting a few coins in a cup is any kind of, I don't know, is that a good substitute for going and doing something with your time that would probably be worth a whole lot more to you?
Yeah.
Than the soul destroying walking up and down and then her kind of comparison of that of she sees the other side of people who are just frightened all the time, and they're in a situation and they can't accept the truth and they don't know what's happening to them, which is kind of the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Trying to make sense of what's happening to people.
And it, again, almost creating stories or using these defense mechanisms, these masks, these things that help you cope with that lack of power.
Yes.
I think kind of really sums up that entire theme quite nicely. Yeah. Did you notice the purple sock reference?
Yes, but what I didn't get the reference.
Is that from the last weekend where they met at the Purple Sock?
Oh, was it?
I think it was.
Oh, because he puts yes, he may well be actually. Is that where he runs his bottomless brunch?
Yeah, every Thursday.
The Purple Sock.
And that's where he's trying to Columbo him. I could put you all on the guest list. Jerry, Edith, Alina. What's your name again?
No.
Trying to Columbo him.
Oh.
I love the idea of trying to Columbo people.
Yes, Cleo's really not a fan of Ray. At this point, she describes him basically as a fascist prick, which is quite a leap.
Yeah, she's gone.
She's invoked Godwin's law. The Nazis are here.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting. I was sort of thinking about, as a totalitarian regime that is obviously surrounding this situation, it leans more towards a communist regime rather than a fascist one.
Oh, it's pretty Stasi, isn't it?
Yeah. And because it's like almost this whole process of the replacement service is the equivalent of the gulags. So you don't need to have the prison camps anymore. You can just replace people, because actually, in terms of the identity politics of it, like if it was a right-wing fascist dictatorship, they'd be looking at the identities of people and eradicating people based on that, but actually it's political dissidents, really, or social dissidents.
Yes.
And if you can just pacify them by replacing them, actually that's a lot easier than keeping them in a camp. And so that's quite a I don't think there's anything particularly politically significant in terms of what Stephen Rees was saying, but like again, I think it just speaks to this non-ideological position of the episode itself, or of this whole story, because you've got a bit of everything, really. But I think that is definitely the old Soviet style kind of I guess where political correctness came from in terms of like the words that you aren't allowed to say, for even though we know what we mean, but we're not allowed to say this. And so you're sort of again concealing things.
Keep your head down. Don't get involved.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's what you say that gets you in trouble, rather than again who you are.
Who you are. Yeah.
It's like you can't talk your way out of being a Jew if you're in Nazi Germany. Like
that's who you are. You are Jewish. Yeah. And that's this kind of the tirade against Ray from Cleo then kind of leads us into, should we look in Finn's bag? Let's take a vote on it. And he couldn't have asked for a better thing here, of people literally setting themselves up to position themselves either side of this kind of situation. He's got them to actually go, put your hand up if you are someone who is going to end up being replaced, and leave it down if you're not. It's mad.
I'm with you. Someone's got to stand up to the man.
Exactly. And he's been lording it over us this whole time like he's better than us. Well, you're not! And the rest of you can sit there and do nothing, but I'm taking affirmative action.
There's still more of us than there are of you.
No, there isn't. Excuse me.
Edith, what are you doing?
There was the initial vote on the bag, wasn't there? Gerald pushed Edith's hand down when she was about to vote, as if to say, no. I know where this leads. He's kind of stuck in two minds about all of this, really, throughout the whole episode, I think. That's when the strangling happens.
That's right.
When Ray is strangling Finn.
Yeah, that's an interesting moment.
Because he really goes for him. And that's when Mossy comes back in and he stops. And that's where I didn't know. I wasn't sure about who was in on what or what was going on there, because it felt like something wasn't quite right and something had been interrupted.
Yeah.
But why Mossy? And
I hadn't thought about it. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because it comes back from speaking to the driver. And then there's an announcement almost immediately after that as well, isn't there?
Yes, to say that we've heard that something's happened involving a purse in the carriage.
Sorry about the continuing loss of power.
Yes. Yeah.
Should be on our way fairly
The replacement service is on its way.
Yeah.
It is on its way.
And in that strangling thing, again, Cleo is just standing there saying, somebody stop him. And it's like, that is a really interesting, it's like somebody else, someone needs to stop it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you could go and, yeah. And I think, again, that speaks to that social commentary of either, or don't get involved, or somebody else needs to.
Yes.
I see this, there's an issue here, but I see this problem. Somebody needs to do something about it. It's like, oh, maybe you could.
He's not going to stand up to it.
Give it to me.
Someone stop him!
Do you reckon they started with trial sperm and were like, what's that an anagram of?
Yeah.
Oh, Meryl Streep. Great.
Then there's a couple of little conversations between people. at this point here, once it's sort of settled down a bit, where we have that nice conversation between Mossy and Elena, and them sort of the way that they see the world very differently to each other. And like you say, there's that idea of, for her, people putting a mask on and trying to deal with what's going on. And then we see Edith and Gerald, where Edith's pretty wound up about what Ray's just done. She's just saying he's a bully. Gerald's trying to settle her down because by the end of it, we realise he knows where this goes if she keeps on the way she is. And this is where she kind of laments him backing down from the positions he used to have and the principles he used to have, and them singing Oliver on the strike lines.
Yeah.
Well, she brought him tea.
Soup in a pot with a ladle.
Yeah. And that got a big smile from between sort of her and Harold as well.
Yeah.
It's like he was listening to it.
Because she says, like, I want more, Jerry.
Yes.
And that smile, there's an exchange of a smile, very intentional. And it's like, what's the meaning behind that? What's Harold, what does he know and what is he thinking? Is it a, yeah, you go. Or
yeah, you're done.
This is the end of you.
Enjoy this attitude you've got because it's not going to last.
Yeah.
And whilst all these sort of conversations are going on in pairs, Wilma is feeling like she could have filmed all this situation and put it on OnlyFans. The teacher, the tramp, and the terrorist
and
for OnlyFans.
Yeah, triggers the next phase where the terrorist word is invoked.
It's now there. Cleo is massively confused at this point by Wilma's pro-Raymond attitude. I think she's almost taken this approach of, I assume that based on the way you dress and you act, that you are on my side of things.
Yeah.
Like there's the identity kind of thing coming out there of, I assume I know what you think about this because of this, because of the way you look. When in reality, Wilma's a bit more complex than that.
Yeah.
And there's some dark stuff going on down there, and it's interesting.
Yeah. And that comes out, doesn't it, later when they're talking about, again, basically what they're using masks for.
Yes, because he really, really explains exactly why he's on Raymond's side here, because he's dealt with. Well, I mean, his mask has gone on basically because of the breakdown in society and people doing what the hell they want to do to him, because they didn't like the way that he dressed and was. And so, he clearly feels like there does need to be some consequences for people who behave like that. And his way of dealing with it is going all out and becoming a real showman, I guess. But there's a lot of bitterness and resentment and anger underneath there that isn't very nice.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, Cleo doesn't mind that bitterness and that nasty attitude when she's not on the receiving end of it. When she's the one being called, in quotes, a fag hag.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that was a viciously delivered line.
Horrible, yeah. No, I think, and as I say, I think Wilma is there's a consistency to that character all the way through the episode. There is, as far as we're concerned watching, nothing really changes. Like right from the word go,
everything's a joke.
Everything's
a joke, really. But everything's a joke to cover things up. To some extent. But so sides start getting taken here and people start really coming down very clearly on whichever side they're on. Edith goes over, she accuses Ray of being a bully. She's quite outward about that. And it all starts to get up. It's now starting to build up, isn't it, towards the end of it. Yeah. Move towards the end.
He's mean, you're mean.
Blessed are the mean.
Yes. Yeah, that's the moment, isn't it?
And yeah, that's so Finn, once the vote's kind of been taken, Finn then says, "Do you want to see in the bag then?" And starts throwing out the gas masks.
And everything. You're like,
what is going on now? What is this?
Yeah.
Because what's going on? He's throwing these gas masks out to the people who were trying to pin him down and rifle through his stuff.
Yeah.
Because they think he's a terrorist. Is he a terrorist? It looks a bit like he might be a terrorist. But he's helping out the people that accused him of being a terrorist. What is going on right now? And then we start seeing the versions appearing.
Yeah.
At the train doors.
Delivered that, when Matthew Kelly delivers that line, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." And then there's that beautiful dystopic synth bass.
Yes.
And then they arrive on the station platform.
Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God.
Put on the masks. Gerald and Harold don't need them.
Yeah, Harold and I don't need them. Which is... Yeah, and then it's all right, Edie, deep breaths, it doesn't hurt. It's like, okay, so he at least knows this process. Has he brought her into this to get her replaced?
Yeah, because he's fed up of...
That's the question.
I mean, it must be... If he's aware that this process exists, then maybe he's frustrated by the fact that really Edie keeps wanting more from him that he can't give. And the only way that he's going to be able to carry on his marriage is if she is also a replacement and they are sort of similarly subdued.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I suppose it's the question, is this a service that happens sort of most nights? And if you know which carriage to get on, or, you know, maybe it's just a case of going and sitting, because that's the other thing, is the train is pretty empty and they've all gone and sat in the same area, which is slightly strange. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that I wanted to pick up on Steve, you know, when Steve says, "I'm with you, Daddy."
Yes, I'm with you, Daddy.
I think he enjoyed delivering that line a little bit too much. "I'm with you, Daddy." Yeah.
So yeah, then it all kind of unfolds. And Finn explains to them what's just happened. He said that he gave the purse back to Elena and said it was an inciting incident. So it was him all along. He did have it. Which really, it couldn't really have been anyone else based on where everyone was sat on the train. He was there right next to her on the chair behind her. The only person near her as well, I think, was Mossy, and they established it wasn't him. No one else.
Actually, they were having an argument because he was. That's when Wilma was having a go at him, calling him Melania Trump.
Yes. So
that was all happening at that time. So it's
not a surprise. And so he kind of lays out the fact they swap out the disruptors, and ask them to sign a thing to say that it never happened. But if you'd like to tick the box, then
we're always looking
to help us out in future. Maybe Gerald did. Maybe that's what Gerald's been hired for. Maybe he ticked the box. And then he also picks up on Elena and says, we need people like you, Elena, people who don't get involved. We wouldn't say boo to a goose.
It's so hard hitting. That, like, imagine having that said to you. It would be like,
you have basically what you have to offer is the fact that you don't really have anything going on.
But you're trying,
just keep your head down, and
because it's like you're trying to be really nice as well. Like, and I think that is where so many of us kind of land in life, where you think you're doing the right thing, and it's like, well, maybe we shouldn't get involved, and actually, that's all that is required for bad stuff to carry on going.
And as it says, the announcement says, disruption to the line has now been rectified.
Yeah.
If you see something that doesn't look right, see it, say it, sort it.
Is that what the British Transport Police?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same announcement.
Yeah, that's the same as that. Which is the opposite, really, of what they want people to do, because they don't want people to speak up if they see something that's not right. It's the opposite of that,
true.
Because they don't want you to see it, say it, and sort it. They want you to see it, shut it, don't go near it,
zip it,
see it, shut it, zip it. Unless, of course, the thing that doesn't look right is people being disruptive. In which case, do see it, say it, sort it.
Yeah.
Confusing.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Maybe we should just not get involved.
Don't get involved. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. Yeah, great episode. I think there's so much in it.
I'm pretty sure on our 27th run through this episode, as we go through the Onion again and again.
Again and again, yeah. Yeah,
there'll be more.
Looking forward to hearing other people's thoughts on it. So if people do, if there's anything we've talked about or anything that we haven't talked about, do get in touch. Send us an email, aquietnightinsideKnow9@gmail.com, or get in touch on Twitter @AQNIN9. And if you'd like to sponsor a future episode of the podcast,
thanks, Fiona.
We'll pop a little PayPal link in the show notes. So yeah, we keep the podcast advertising free, and yeah, just rely on donations. If you enjoy it and would like to say thank you, then please do. Yeah, we better get ready for the next episode. I think
they're coming thick and fast.
I love the fact they come every week when you get a new series, but I also wish there was a bit more time to savour them. I feel like it's...
you get a few days.
Another one.
You get a few days.
6 weeks is going to go very, very quickly.
It is.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I'll speak to you again soon for...
Episode 2.
Episode 2.
I don't know. I'm deliberately keeping away from it. No idea.
Yeah, good. All right. See you then.
Bye-bye.
When we get home, shall we book to see Salad Days?
Yes, I think we should.
If you see something that doesn't look right, speak to staff or text British Transport Police on 61016 and we'll sort it. See it, say it, sorted.